Officially Thursday, April 27th. Great to have you all here. Um, Couple of thoughts, of course, as per usual, random thoughts. Maybe I should start calling the morning call Random Thoughts from Ranchelle. So, right. One of them I wanted to share with you. There is still a little bit of, I think, concern around ChatGPT. And I just want to share something really, really quick with all of you. And I'm actually going to share my screen. My intention's not to convince you to use ChatGPT. I think you really just need to follow your intuition. Um, from a business perspective, here's why I like chat is the more that I understand, the more that I can use chat with different prompts, the more that it actually sounds like me. And it, like everything else, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of investing of time. I've bought a couple of like $7 programs to get some ideas of what prompts I should be using. I invested in a higher end program. I'm glad that I did. I probably could have figured it out, about 6 more months. And I'm really glad that I didn't wait, because 6 months, it's a timing thing. But what I want to share with you is the ease and flow of what could possibly be created for you if this feels good. And so I think that's the piece of it is if it feels good, it really needs to feel good for you. And so depending, of course, on what you're doing. Um, and so I'm just going to show you my screen. And so here's what I wrote, right? So I know how important it is to create a strong headline that attracts the attention of my audience. If my audience is heart-centered entrepreneurial women and their pain is that they do not resonate with the current marketing and sales tactics, and what they're looking for is a different way to show up in their business, one that feels good to them, can you please write me 10 captivating headlines that will grab the attention of my ideal client? Now, I could have added use friendly conversational headlines. That might be my next prompt. Spiritual in nature. You could add things like if you wanted them to be more salesy, you could use the word persuasive. You could ask it to use neural linguistic programming. I mean, it really is a language. It's going to follow your prompts. And so then it gave me 10 within seconds. Gave me 10 headlines. So ditch the hustle and find your flow, a heart-centered approach to marketing and sales. Marketing and sales will align with your values, how to build a business that feels good. Authenticity is key, how to market and sell with heart in a competitive world. Selling from the heart, how to build a business that connects with your audience. Marketing without manipulation, a new way to connect with your ideal clients. Like there's some really good headlines in there, right? Empowering women entrepreneurs, marketing and sales strategies that feel good and deliver results. From pushy to powerful, a heart-centered approach to marketing and sales success. Marketing from a place of purpose, aligning your business with your passion and values. Redefining success, a heart-centered approach to marketing and sales. Connect, convert, and create impact, the heart-centered marketing and sales formula for women entrepreneurs. So within seconds, it took me 3 minutes to do that whole, I timed myself, but to do that whole entire thing. And so for me, it's an idea generator because that's where I get caught up in. I know I have an important message, but I'm unsure of how to share it in a way that's different than just going into a story. Right. The stories, because I understand the stories are an important part of who I am and what I do. And I understand that when I do that here and I share stories here, that the result is sharing with you, all of you, a way to embody the work. And so I was, guided a long time ago, even though my coach said a long time ago, you can't present like that, Ranchelle. And so I I was guided through right source, divine source, that I actually can. And I meant to. I meant to do that. And so I am way more comfortable than sharing my stories, from that perspective. So I don't think it's the end all and be all. But what I really like about it is I have 10 different opportunities now to take a look at that and then make changes to it if I so desire. But it gives me more direction. So the other piece about what I like about it is because of my neurodivergent brain, direction is important because I can squirrel, right? So I just wanted to kind of share that little bit of strategy with you, so that if have been avoiding it or concerned about it, and there are people in that place and space, and so definitely open to having a one-to-one conversation with all of you, about that. So, and I do, Sherry, I do actually pay for mine. Yeah. So there, yeah, it is free. And so, but they have because there's so many people using it, it's very limited now. So you may or may not get on if it's free. I think I pay $19 a month for it. And so, but yeah, there is a free version as well. So that's just one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and which kind of leads into when we think about business, and this doesn't have to be just business, but business or personal success. One of the things I think that I wanted to share with you was that there's always a way. Meaning, if you have a desire, you have an intention, you're moving towards a goal, and you have this opportunity then to move towards the goal. And as you're doing the activities around the goal, it may or may not pan out or work the way that you quote unquote wanted to, the way that you desire. So that's an experience, right? You set an intention, it doesn't work out, it's an experience. And work out, I'm going to use that very loosely. What's most important is, what is your response or reaction to it not working out? Do you just accept the isness of it and go, well, that's really interesting that it didn't have the results that I desired? Or do you go into a story? Do you go into a story about how you can't do it, you're not good enough, it's not working out the way you want to, you're going to go broke, you're going to have to give up your house, you're going, like, what are you most afraid of? What is the underlying fear? Because if you follow, like I call it, like the breadcrumbs, when I first started to do this, it was always connected to me, well, then I'm going to be homeless and living on the streets. And it was the strangest thing, because I have never been homeless. I don't have anybody in my life that's been homeless. And I know for sure, for certain, that I wouldn't be living on the street, because worst case scenario, I would go find a job, right? Like, I would find a way. So when I started to see that I had a fear that was completely unfounded, now that unfounded fear was founded on a fear that I did experience. I almost went bankrupt. I almost lost my house. I did lose a vehicle. I had to, send the vehicle back to the dealership I was leasing it. There was tons of shame, tons of guilt around that, tons of judgment of myself, feeling like other people were judging me. But the worst case of I'm going to be homeless did not happen. Right now, there was a time in my life, I was in my 20s, where I was in between jobs. I was always was in the hospitality industry when I was younger, that I did actually have to use the food bank once when I was living in Saskatoon to eat. Right. And that was actually through poor choice, meaning lots of fun, lots of partying, no food, right? So I wouldn't make those choices now at the age of 50. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to party all week. Oh, darn, I don't have any food, right? I'm going to go to the food bank. So I'm a much different person than I was when I was 20. But I really needed to follow the breadcrumbs. So how I did that was like, what am I really afraid of? And then I would write that down. And then I would ask, well, what would happen if that happened? And then what would happen? And then what would happen? Write the story. And then what would happen? And the story. And then what would happen? And then what would happen? And then what would, and it really got down to, right, then I'm going to be homeless and I'm going to die. And I thought, whoa, right? Knowing full well that that would not happen. So it gave me an opportunity to see how my brain was functioning, my brain was working and making up stories, right? My brain was making up stories. It had a little bit of evidence, which is poor choices have led to financial, right, demise. Right? Poor choices in my life have led to financial demise. But it made up a lot of stories in between that. So then I start to think of, well, what if I could make shit up the other way? Right? Like, if I'm making shit up, why don't I go, well, then what happened versus, and then what happened? Well, then what happened? Well, what else could happen? What else could happen? What else could? So I took this storyline from I'm homeless to what if I was living anywhere in the world? What if my business was so successful? What if it was this? What if I was standing on stage? What if I had this much impact and influence? What if this happened? So I literally reversed engineered the story of from, homeless to, right, what if I was doing everything that I wanted to do? Because if really, seriously, if I'm going to make shit up, right, why don't I make shit up in the other way? And so it goes back to and there's much, like lots of scientific evidence that your brain doesn't know the difference between what really happened and the perception of what happened. So why don't we play? Why don't we have some fun? And so we want to change our state. So if you follow the like, and then what happened, and I'm homeless line, and feel your energy, like, right, I could feel myself getting more judgmental, and I stopped, and then I was so much in awe of my imagination. And I had such gratitude for my brain, like, oh my goodness, like, how did that happen? Like, meaning that would not happen, right? My pride, yes, I have pride, and I wouldn't allow myself to be in a space and place. And I'm not saying that everyone who's experiencing homelessness from that perspective. So please don't, like, that's not my intention of the conversation. I'm just talking about me, Ranchelle. So I decided to like go the opposite way, right? Well, what would happen? What would happen if everybody on my Facebook's feed, so I have 3,000 friends on Facebook. What would happen if 3,000 people shared my Facebook post that day? I would go viral. Well, then what would happen? What would happen if I felt super comfortable doing video in a different way, right? What would happen if I decided to be entertaining on TikTok? Well, what would happen if I did that, right? Now, also listen to the Yabbas, right? So the Yabbit on TikTok is like, I am so not dancing for people on TikTok. I love watching those, but I'm just not going to dance, right? I'm a great dancer, but I'm like, yeah, no, right? So, but there's a Yabbit there. So there's gold there. I have opportunity there. Like, why wouldn't I dance on TikTok? I'm a great dancer, right? So I can follow, I can like set that breadcrumb aside. There's work there. Cool. But you can take this and like, well, what would happen if this happened? And what would happen if this happened? How many people would, and you can change the flow, change your state of mind, and then imagine as if that is happening. Like, what would happen if everything that you did impacted at least one person? What would happen if everything that you did impacted at least one person? And I get it that we'd be like, I'd love for 3,000 people to share my Facebook post. That would be fucking cool, right? Like, truly, that would be really cool. What would happen, right, if that happened? So changing the state, right? So we can think about like what would happen if one person was impacted. That gives me like warm fuzzies, right? I'm like, oh, that would be so cool. The exciting piece is like, wouldn't that be cool if 3,000 people shared my Facebook post? Like, that's fun. So it's lightheartedness, it's creating the desire, right? And so then of course, I'll always bring it back into the impact of your gratitude statements and your I am, your affirmations, right? They're simple and overlooked, and it makes a huge difference. So then you would change that to, right? I have impact. I'm impactful. I'm influential, right? I'm prosperous. I'm abundant, right? I am motivational. I'm inspirational. I am, and then whatever. And then I'm so happy and grateful now that. And your I am statements will be different than, possibly be different than my I am statements. So we know that when we operate from fear, we make shit up, right? So let's operate from a place of sacred love, right? Abundance, prosperity, and let's make shit up. Let's just make it up. I mean, truly, everything's kind of an illusion anyhow. So why don't we just have some fun with our illusions and imagine, like where would you like to be? What would you like to be doing? And experience that now. And when it does start to happen, have tons of gratitude. Don't dismiss it. I was at I think I shared this with you a couple of weeks ago. I was at not a wine tasting, but it was like a beverage tasting, wine and food expo. And I was standing around talking to my friends, and this woman so there's like three of us, right? And this woman comes towards us. And so just a general networking 101, when somebody approaches your circle, open up the circle so they feel like they can, right, that they can join. So I moved my body so that it was more opening so she could come in and have conversation with us. And she said, you're Ranchelle, right? And I'm like, yes. And she said, can I shake your hand? And I'm like, yes. So I shook her hand and she goes, can I give you a hug? And I'm like, yes. And she said, I just wanted to tell you that I loved what you did a presentation 2 years ago, and it made such an impact on me. And I listened to your podcast, and it makes such a difference. And I was like, whoa, right? So I gave her a hug and grinning from ear to ear. And my friends were like, oh my God, that's so cool. I'm like, right, that's so cool. I didn't downplay it. The Ranchelle from years ago would have tried to be more humble, right? She would have been like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, isn't that nice? It was really fucking cool, right? To be recognized in a place, that someone came up to me and told me that I was having impact and influence on them, right? So I can take that feeling, and have been taking that feeling and sitting with it every morning. Wouldn't it be cool if, so that's how I always do things. Wouldn't it be cool if, right, I had people doing that on a regular basis? Wouldn't that be cool if, and then I listen for the yeah buts, right? And then if anyone in my life has a yeah but, I can choose to be in awareness of the yeah but, or I can delete the yeah but. Meaning, my girlfriend said, oh, I wouldn't want to be well known. Right? Well known. One person came up to me, so now she thinks I'm well known. I wouldn't want to be well known or famous, right? And then she went into this story about why she wouldn't want to be well known or famous. Well, that's really works really well for her, right? I'd love to be well known. I would love to be well known. I would love to have that much impact and influence. I'm here. I know that I'm here to have impact and influence. So that part of that is to be well known, right? I don't have to like go into her story. So I just like in my head, delete, 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 delete. That's cool. You don't have to be well known. I want impact, right? She had a story around well known. Does that make sense? Famous people, what happens with famous people? People have a story about that, right? They don't have a private life, blah, 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 blah. Things go on the internet. There's like there is a story. I don't, yeah, not buying into that story. That can be someone else's story. Thank you very much, right? For her. So we can make shit up on the other end of things. And so we can, once we start really making shit up, we start feeling the excitement of the life that we desire, there's this huge, it's a huge, subtle but huge shift that happens, because you're more willing then to stand out. You're more willing to show up on a regular basis in front of your ideal client, right? I know that in the past, I used to say, oh, it's so hard for people to find me. Well, of course it is. Because if you're not on a social platform, people aren't going to necessarily find you. Now, there's other ways to build business. Word of mouth, right? Referral marketing, networking. You do not have to be on a social media platform to build a business, right? But it's to be an awareness of what strategy do you want to use in your life and your business to build your business. There is no wrong strategy, but it's important to be clear about what that would look like for you. And you might not know. You might be like, when I started, it's like, I have no idea how I want this to unfold. So this is what I said: big guy upstairs, you need to show me. Big guy upstairs, show me the way, right? And so and I, I started to just ask for more direction, because I knew that my brain was limited. So your brain is limited. Your brain limits you. It's unlimited, actually. You're within your brain is unlimited potential and power. However, we limit ourselves by our beliefs, by our values, by our opinions, and by the illusions, because we make shit up all the time, right? What will my mom think if I do a TikTok video? I know, maybe, I don't know. Maybe my mom wouldn't think anything, right? But that's the shit that goes through my head sometimes. I'm like, really? I'm 54 years old and I'm worried about what my mommy thinks. Okay, seriously, right? But it's true, like that. So I'm like, I might as well acknowledge it rather than pretend it's not there. Like, I'll say, okay, like I'm concerned about what my mom thinks, right? My mom's not doing well with her health. I don't want to add stress or pressure. So what kind of conversation do I need to have with my mom? So I shared with you yesterday. I said to her, what the day I'm posting on Facebook, you probably don't want to go. Like, just scroll. When you see my name, Mom, just scroll. just pass me by. No need to look, right? And she messaged me yesterday. She said, I looked at your post the other day. That was fine, Ranchelle. So like, I'm making shit up about what my mom's going to think about me. Right? I don't know what my mom's going to think. I might have past evidence, but really, that was in the past. And that evidence was based in an illusion. Right? So if we just do that, right? So, and 100%. And so there's other parts that some of us are still trying to please our parents who've passed away. Yes. Yes, for sure. Right? What would my mom think? Right? Or my dad think? We absolutely can have a conversation around that if you want to, right? Because that is a thing. That is a thing. And so, we can go back into, if we're making stuff up, right? So as we have these experiences of, because sales and marketing really truly is just one big experiment, right? I did this thing and it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, or I thought. And then you can ask yourself, so what? I did this thing, it didn't work out the way that I wanted to. So what? So what meaning am I giving it? What definition am I giving it? Right? What illusion am I buying into? What belief am I around that? Like, so what? I use this example a lot. Could you imagine when you first started to walk, right? And you know how your children, right? So let me even go to that, because I don't remember when I first started to walk, but I remember when my babies kind of started to walk, right? So, they using the couch or the table, the coffee table, standing up and their legs are all shaking, right? And then they take a step and they fall. Can you imagine if we would have said to them, oh my God, stop. Don't ever try to walk again. You might get hurt. You might bang your head. You might be embarrassed. You might walk funny, right? Like, we would never do that. What do? We encourage our children, right? We grab their tiny, they grab their tiny hands. We walk backwards so they can walk towards us. They fall down, we clap so that they don't get scared, right? We encourage our children to do the things when they're little. Why don't we treat our businesses like that? Look at me. That post totally sucked. Right? Ooh, look at that conversation. Went fucking sideways. That did not end up the way that I thought it was going to be. What do you mean they don't want to work with me? What? Right? Like, I can't believe it, right? They have no idea what they're missing. I mean, we could add that to it versus the stories that oh my God, I gotta pay my bill. And that's the truth is, we need cash flow to pay our bills. But if we focus on the money, have you ever noticed that when you focus on the money dries up? Like, it's just like gone. When we focus on why are we doing the thing that we do, let's be playful, let's have some fun. And that was really hard for me, because that's kind of like my TikTok, right? Doesn't resonate with me, because I'm like, I'd have to loosen up a little bit. Right. And so there's a part of me that's still kind of on pretty tight. And so what would that look like? Right. And so wouldn't it be cool if we could play around with that? What would that look like? Right. So if we can let go of our opinions and just experiment, have some fun, be playful when things don't work out. So if we go into the reason why we have this fear, so we make up stuff where we have this fear, and we make up these stories, what are we actually trying to do? We're trying to alleviate or actually not face the pain. We're avoiding the pain because we've been taught pain is bad. And that you've been taught that you don't have what it takes to deal with the pain, which is not true. You've been taught to avoid the pain and that you don't have what it takes to figure that out. And that's not true. That's the lie, right? No one likes to be in pain. Well, that's not true. Some people do like to have physical pain. So, right, let me retract that, right? But the avoidance of pain, though, has you avoid so much in your life, right? And it's not necessarily, although this is part of it, avoiding the risk, but the avoidance of pain, there's such an illusion around that you can't handle it, that you won't know what to do, that it might affect you negatively, right? That you're going to be in a spiral of some sort of pain if you're, and there's truth to that, right? There is absolutely truth to that. I'm sure all of you have experienced pain that you like no other. I know when Darcy and I separated, I just wanted to, right, be in a fetal position on the floor, and I wanted the world to swallow me up. I would not wish that kind of pain on anyone. And I remember praying and thinking, because growing up, my mom used to say, Ranchelle, God never gives you more pain than you can handle. And I remember laying there in a fetal position, rocking back and forth and saying to God, you have overestimated how strong I am. And I am not this strong. And I remember hearing a voice which was like, you are stronger than you could possibly imagine. And I just remember, then you need to show me the way, because I just want to die. I just wanted to die. And not that I wanted to commit suicide, but I wanted to die. I just wanted the world to swallow me up, because I didn't know. I'd not been taught what to do with the pain. We're not taught that, right? And so I had to live and learn to live with the emotional pain of what I was going through and really look at where the pain was coming from. And the pain was because all of my core wounds and all of my core fears had come to the surface. Abandonment and rejection, like at its like heightened state, right? Not good enough to be in a marriage, someone leaving me, someone never being faithful, right? All of these things because I must totally suck, which of course was the belief of, right, there must be something horribly wrong with me. I also know, right, I knew then that there was a reason, because I believed for a very long time that everything happens for me and nothing happens to me. I knew there was a reason that I was going through all of the pain and that every painful moment in my life had a purpose. So we avoid pain, but the cool thing is there's purpose to the pain. So if we could let go of the avoidance of pain and know that there was a purpose in the pain and that we will be okay. We might need to reach out. I mean, when I was guided to get out, like up, like I was like, get up, Rachel. I needed to get up. I had a girlfriend who was a life coach. I phoned her and said, I'm in serious trouble. I have a friend who's a medium, right? An energy worker. I phoned him and I said, I'm in serious trouble and I need you. And I had a friend who was a therapist. And I said to her, I need a therapist more than I need you as a friend. Can you be my therapist and not my friend? And she said, yeah, I can. She said, but that means like we're not, like we don't go out for suppers. We don't socialize. But I knew that I needed her there versus how I had her in my life. And I was willing to make the sacrifice. So I saw somebody every week for almost 2 years. I saw someone every week for almost 2 years to help me go through, because the ending of the marriage was the beginning of my new life. But I had, I think we've been separated now for 9 or 10 years. I had sort of in my 40s, 40 years of pain to work through. And I had been through to therapists before, and I had been to life coaches before, but it was all around business. And no one got to the key point, right? Because they were all talking about, so here, I guess we can tie this into, they were all talking about strategy in business, which was great, and organization, which was awesome, and time management, which is awesome, because I needed all of those things with the way that my brain functions. But the core never changed. What the core was? Me, my mindset, my beliefs, the pain, right? My core wounds and my core fears. And so none of that was touched until Darcy and I separated. And so I also know that there was a reason for that. Right? So let's tie this kind of all together in somewhat of a neat bow today, which is you can make shit up either way. So why don't we go what we want? And let's make shit up that way. Be in awareness of your yabbits, because you're going to have them. Deal with the yabbits, right? Work through the yabbits, and then have grace and love and compassion for yourself of the yabbits. But why don't you write a story? So here's, if you want to have some fun, write a story about your life the way that you desire. Write a story about the life. Now, it could be like a one day, like meaning what would a perfect day look like for you? It could be a week. It could be an hour, a perfect hour, right? But write a story about your life as if, right, it's everything, like everything that you want. And then what you can do is you can write that story, or you can read that story every single morning. You know, in the world of manifestation, they say, and I could probably give you a list of who they are, but they say that doing this exercise first thing in the morning and just before you go to bed has huge impact, right? When you do before you go to bed with the story of the perfect life. So universally what happens is The formless substance turns into a form. The divine intelligence within you starts to manage and move all the moving parts of your life so that you can have this perfect day. Scientifically, what happens is your RAS, your reticular activating system, starts to look for ways and means for this to happen, right? So when you do it twice a day, you're doing it in the morning, so then that thing happens, and then at night you do it at a hypnotic level, at the subconscious level. You move into a dream state, and then everything starts to flow from dream state. So we can really, really play with this and create what would a perfect day look like for you. And then, like I said, work with your work. Find a different word for work. Opportunity is to play during the day on what that could look like, right? And be an awareness of the bullshit stories that are keeping you from living the life that you just dreamt about, because it's just a story. There might be a little bit of evidence, so I'm not denying that, right? There's evidence that in my past, have not done well with money. I have evidence of that, right? And I could turn that, and say, it's not that I didn't do well with money. It's just that I know that money, is at hand. I just made some choices that I wouldn't make now. I'm more in awareness right now. And there was some underlying beliefs below those below those decisions, right? So it's not that I'm not good with money, which is the illusion. It was like, oh, I had these beliefs, so that's why I made those decisions, and I'm not that woman anymore, right? So I hope that makes sense. Thanks for staying a little bit longer with me. I'm just going to stop the recording.